All right, let's jump straight into this explainer and ask a question that kind of changes how we read ancient texts. Are biblical numbers just random math, or are they actually an intentional signature hidden right in plain sight? I mean, most people assume the text is just a collection of random stories, or maybe a list of historical stats. But when we look a little closer, we start to see something absolutely incredible. It's like a blueprint written right into the middle of the most important moments in history. So we're going to explore these profound patterns that aren't some secret code, but are actually sitting right there, waiting for us to notice them.
So to really answer that question, are they just random math? Well, no, not a chance. To figure out why, we have to look way past modern counting and uncover this profound narrative blueprint hidden in the original Hebrew. You see, in the ancient Hebrew mindset, numbers are literally never arbitrary. Each one carries a really deep weight and a highly specific meaning. They aren't just used to, tally up days or keep inventory. They communicate character and an intentional design for human history. To really get this, we got to strip away how we think about math today and step into an ancient world where numbers are the actual architecture of the story itself.
Which brings us to our first pattern. Section 1, 40, the transformation corridor. We see this specific number show up at the pivotal turning points of almost every major biblical story. And here's the thing, 40 isn't just a measurement of time. It acts as a transformative corridor. Actually, think of it more like a forge. It marks the painful but totally necessary transition between an old reality and a completely new beginning. When you see a 40-day or 40-year period in these texts, it's never just a random prison sentence or a time of empty waiting. It's super active. It's dynamic. It's this messy womb of the desert where an old identity gets completely stripped away and a new, forged identity is birthed. And this brilliantly illustrates that ancient mindset we were just talking about, because in Hebrew, the number 40 is deeply linked to the letter meme, which visually represents water. In fact, the ancient pictograph for meme literally looks like crashing waves. This is where digging into the original languages totally pays off, because suddenly, this connection between the number 40 and the imagery of an underground river flowing through the text becomes practically impossible to ignore. So the crucial takeaway here is that water has a dual nature, right? It destroys, but it also gives life. Meaning, the number 40 represents a corridor of collapse and calling, not just punishment. Think about a giant crashing wave. It has the power to completely wipe out whatever was built on the sand, totally destroying the old world. But at the same time, water is the fundamental requirement for all new life. It's the womb. Therefore, when a character enters a season of 40, they're stepping into the waters of Mem. They're experiencing the collapse of their own strength, just so they can finally hear the calling of a completely new world. Let's trace how this builds throughout history, to see how this recurring blueprint actually works, as isolation is used to strip away one identity and forge another. First up, we've got the waters of Noah's flood, literally raining down for 40 days to wash away an old, broken reality. Then Moses spends 40 days on Mount Sinai, completely isolated, just to receive the blueprint for a new nation. Fast forward centuries later, the prophet Elijah travels 40 days through the desert in a state of total collapse, only to find his true calling on that exact same mountain. And finally, Jesus spends 40 days in the wilderness, passing the ultimate test before launching a ministry that changes the whole world. I mean, the echoes here are just undeniable. But honestly, my absolute favorite, surprising fact about this entire pattern is what happens with the 40 days Jesus spent on earth after the resurrection. It shows us that this corridor ultimately leads to companionship, not just testing. Think about it. After all the fasting, the floods, and the brutal wilderness isolation, the very last 40-day period recorded in this story flips the script entirely. It's 40 days of Jesus just sitting at tables, eating with his friends, and restoring broken people. It completely proves that the ultimate goal of the 40-day forge isn't to leave you isolated, it's to prepare you for a seat at the table. Okay, moving right along, section 2, 7, the signature of completion. Let's explore a second number, one that represents the absolute boundary of rest and finality. If 40 is the messy womb of transformation, 7 is the final destination. It's the ultimate signature of completion. You can kind of think of the number 7 as the final stroke of an author's pen who wants to make absolutely sure you know the story is finished. It's not just a chronological count of days, and it's definitely not a lucky number. It is a boundary of rest. It signifies total wholeness. And you have to hear this linguistic connection. When the number 7 is used, it is essentially swearing an oath through the math of the universe that the work is completely finished. The Hebrew word for 7 is Sheva, and in the original language, this word shares the exact same root as the concepts for making an oath and achieving fullness. When we see the number 7, it is literally a divine oath. It's the ultimate promise that whatever has been started, no matter how chaotic or messy it currently looks, will absolutely be brought to a state of total perfection. We see this completion pattern tethering together moments of utter chaos over and over. From the 7 days of creation carving out rest, to Jacob using 7 years of service in a marriage nobody wanted just to build a kingdom, to the exact number of faithful kept safe in Israel. Look at how perfectly this pattern overlays human history. The formless void is completed in 7 days. Jacob is running from his past, tangled in this wildly messy family filled with rivalry, and serving 7 years in an arrangement literally nobody asked for. Yet that acts as the tether that eventually births the 12 tribes. And when the world seemed completely lost to idolatry, there wasn't just a random handful of people left. There were exactly 7,000. Remember when the prophet Elijah experienced that total collapse in the wilderness? Well, he was met in what's called the kol demana daka, the thin silence, to reveal those 7,000 faithful, proving that the remnant is never just almost enough. Elijah had just finished his grueling 40-day corridor. He's hiding in a cave, feeling completely alone. But the voice didn't come in the wind, the earthquake, or the fire. It came in that thin, piercing silence. And in that silence, the signature of 7 was revealed. He was told about those 7,000 who had not bowed to Baal, because the faithful remnant is always perfectly complete.
So what does this all mean for us? Section 3, the blueprint for your life.
Why does all this ancient Hebrew typology actually matter for the messy wilderness you might be walking through today? Well, it matters because the raw material of our chaotic 6-day lives, which, let's be real, are often born out of rivalry and heartbreak, is intentionally used to carve out a 7th day that can be declared very good. We all live in the messy 6 days. We deal with the striving, the massive failures, the broken pieces, the desperate prayers. We look at our lives and just see a formless void of chaos. But this pattern shows us that this exact raw material is what gets forged into a finished, restful 7. If you feel like your life is just a series of broken pieces and endless testing right now, please remember this one powerful takeaway. Your failures do not erase your name. We see this brilliantly illustrated with the 12 tribes of Israel. They were born out of massive family dysfunction, yet their 12 distinct names were carved onto 12 different colored stones on the high priest's breastplate, carried right next to his heartbeat. And in the final pages of the text, those exact same names are etched in gold on the gates of the eternal city. Their messy origins didn't disqualify them at all. Instead, they were used as the very blueprint. Because the one who never once wastes a 40-day wilderness is the exact same one who never leaves a project half-finished. And honestly, this is the ultimate comfort found in these sacred patterns. Those 40 days of crashing waves, where you feel like literally everything is being stripped away, that's not an accident, and it is certainly not a waste. It is the careful, highly intentional work of an author who absolutely loves the number 7. An author who is merciful, long-suffering, and entirely committed to bringing your story to a place of complete rest. So, I'll leave you with this final thought to ponder today. If you feel like you are stuck in the 40-day corridor right now, can you trust that the thin silence is actually leading you toward a finished perfect 7? Look closely at the patterns hiding in plain sight in your own life. The testing is only a passage. The forge is just preparing you for the table. So take a breath, listen closely for that thin silence, and trust the author's signature.